It's 29 minutes now past the hour of 8 a.m. and it's time for our special edition of Inside Oakwood with Dr. Leslie Pollard. Good morning, Dr. Leslie Pollard.
Good morning, Donna. How are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
I am doing very well, thank you.
Wonderful. So we have a very important topic that we're going to be talking about today.
Did
you have a word today we didn't talk about?
I do.
Let's get to that, and then we'll get to that important topic of reopening Oakwood University.
Okay. So about 400 years ago, the bubonic plague overtook Europe. And there was a young theologian who decided how he would navigate that plague. And I think it's applicable to what we do today. And so he wrote about the bubonic plague. This is what he said. Now, this is very interesting, so I want to read what he wrote. Okay, so he wrote, "I shall ask God to mercifully protect us. Then I shall fumigate, help purify the air, administer medicine, and take it. I shall avoid places and persons where my presence is not needed, in order to not become contaminated and thus perchance inflict and pollute others, and so cause their death as a result of my negligence. If my neighbor needs me, however, I shall not avoid place or person, but will go freely, as stated above." That was Martin Luther, the founder of the Protestant Reformation.
Yes.
So isn't that fascinating?
Yes.
I heard Pastor Bird preach a powerful sermon this week about the Protestant Reformation and how Christianity began as a protest movement, and I appreciated his message. I was blessed by it.
Yes.
But also though, as you look at this, you say, okay, so Dr. Martin Luther said, "I will ask God mercifully to protect us, then I shall fumigate." So now that's wisdom from
right
almost
now,
500 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So that takes us to opening today.
Yes.
Because we are planning right now to reopen our school August 1st. And I just want to give just a few basic statistics,
Okay.
just as to start the discussion. So there are more than, people sometimes write me and they say, "But haven't you heard that so-and-so is not going to open and so-and-so is not going to open and so-and-so is not going to open?" And then I say to them, okay. I say, yes, I did hear that. How many have you heard are not opening? And they'll say, this one, that one. I say, can you count them? Yeah, on one hand, probably.
Right.
On one hand. I said, do you realize that there are more than 4,200 degree-granting institutions?
Right.
What are the other 4,195 doing in the fall? They're opening. For many reasons. One reason is, what they do best is face-to-face instruction. That's what they were designed to do. Now, they're reopening, and they're reopening safely. Nobody's now, anybody who's reopening in a cavalier way should not reopen. Right. So we're not asking for people to be, hubristic and cavalier. But when you think about the few that you've heard that are not opening, there are more than 4,000 others that are, because face-to-face instruction is what they actually do best. Everything else is a default. So that's one reason. Second is the economics of it.
Okay, yeah, that's honest.
People don't want to admit it. They don't want to talk about it. But the economics of closing an institution, and some institutions, sadly, some of our HBCUs, they're predicted that they will probably not survive if they don't. A third reason is that if we take the CDC precautions seriously, never will we completely eliminate risk, but we can minimize it. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's what all the institutions are trying to do.
You can plan to have a response to whatever that happens.
And if you have a case or so,
you know what
then you have procedures in place to manage that. Because that's the best you're going to do. Because right now, Donna, the idea of a vaccine, from what the experts tell us, is still a ways off.
Right.
And so persons who say, well, don't do anything until there's a vaccine, means don't do anything for the foreseeable future, because we just don't know. We just don't know. There's so many things we don't know. And I guess the last piece of this is that many religious denominations, including Seventh-day Adventists, because of our prophecies and everything like that, we are addicted to certainty. We're addicted to certainty. And this causes us to trust God, because you just can't be certain. We don't know. The ambiguity is what causes so much stress for so many, especially when you have a strong need for certain, 2,300 days, and it started this day and it ended that day. But the reality is, when there is uncertainty, that's the moment we trust God.
Right.
Right? When I can't see the future, when I don't know where I'm going. What does that say? We don't know what the future holds, but we know who holds the future.
Right.
All of that. That's how we get through these moments and grow because of them.
Amen.
So we're excited about it,
right.
and
Yes,
we're excited about the opening.
Yes.
We're sobered by it,
yes.
and we've got some wonderful experts with us. We've got the chair of our University Responsiveness Task Force, Dr. Karen Benn-Marshall, who's with us this morning, to talk about the reopening plan. Together, we spent hours, thousands of hours, developing that plan, which is on the university's website. We want it to be public so that we can hold ourselves accountable.
Yes.
That's the purpose for going public.
Right.
So the plan is public. This is what we're doing. We want to hold ourselves accountable.
Right.
Then we've got Dr. Earl Henry, who's with us on the other side of the studio, socially distanced. For those who are watching by Facebook, welcome. So he's on the other side, and Dr. Henry will give us some guidance in terms of how his committee has been working with the public health management of it. And then phoning in, we've got our health services director, Dr. Eboni Murraine, who's going to be talking to us, about some of the procedures that will be in place as safety protocols for the campus. So we've got a comprehensive team, about 40 people, subdivided into 12 different subcommittees, and all of them have been working in concert like a symphony, every section doing its part in order to prepare the campus for its opening.
Amen. So we are ready to go.
We're ready.
We're ready to go.
We're ready.
All right, so where do you want to start? Who do you want to start with in talking about how we're going to reopen?
Well, okay, let's talk about the plan to reopen then. Okay, so Dr. Karen Benn-Marshall, the university is going to open in the fall. Could you say a little bit about the reopening strategy? So we're not going at this in a way that is willy-nilly and hopeful, but we've got a structured roadmap. We've got a process map that we're following, and it's called the University Reopening Plan. Could you say a little bit about the plan and then maybe point us to some key features in it?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pollard. Thank you, Donna, for the opportunity this morning to share with our constituents. And so, Dr. Pollard, I want to talk a little bit about the healthcare matrix, which is actually, I think, really important, because I think an important piece is the testing piece. But I think I want you to introduce that and talk about the CARES Act before we get into that testing piece, which I think is really critical.
Okay.
So,
and which page are you going to?
So let's go to page 13 of
and
the
for
plan.
those of you who want to follow us, you're welcome to go to the university website or to WJOU. I think it's on WJOU page 2. We put it there. So you can go to the university website or our Facebook page for WJOU, our web page for WJOU, and you can follow along if you wish, or you can make notes and then go back later and read. But what Dr. Benn-Marshall is pointing us to is a very highly developed health and safety operational matrix that we're using. Okay.
So when we developed this matrix, as Dr. Pollard said, there were several hundreds and hundreds of hours that we spent really working on this document. And so we wanted to look at all the environments across our campus. So what will our instructional spaces? And if you notice, we're not using the word classrooms, we're using the word instructional spaces. So places like the chapel now becomes an instructional space. The gymnasium, which has been an instructional space, it'll be open to other departments as well. So being critical about the instructional spaces, because what's critical is that we have to maintain that physical distancing. So our regular classrooms that may have outfitted 20 students will now outfit 10 students.
Right.
And so that is one of the most critical things that we have to be able to do as an institution. The other place, what about our student common areas? We have to reduce space in there, again, physical distancing. And so we'll be marking off areas, our computer classrooms, which is, for example, in the library area, our dining hall. So that's going to completely be grab and go, completely different, no time to stop and take food, but completely different because we don't want that physical distance. We want that physical distancing. Our snack bar, our Treehouse Bistro, once again, cash and carry and go. Our elevators, limiting the occupancy in our elevators. Typically, some of our elevators are small, so we'll have maybe one person in that elevator. And the signage is going to be critical because we want to make sure that people follow the signage across campus to know that you've got to be 6 feet apart. The other piece, speaking about signage, they have to wear masks as you enter the campus. There will be signs that indicate to you that you have to wear masks as you enter our campus. Did you want to say anything, Dr. Pollard, about that?
Masks are on your face at all times, wherever
so
you're
that's
on
required
campus.
now.
Required.
We have 4, just for the sake of our audience, we have 4 campus partners on campus. We've got Oakwood University Church under leadership of Dr. Bird. We've got the Oakwood Adventist Academy under the leadership of Principal Judy Dent. And we've got the Alabama School for Cyber Technology under the leadership of Principal Matt Massey.
Okay.
The four of us meet together regularly to talk about how we're going to manage the campus, because it's not just a university.
Right.
We've got partners and we're all working together on this. We've all decided that the requirement is a mask on our campus. So that's one of the requirements for matriculating around the campus.
Okay.
That's important. That's important because in our state, the state hasn't taken that position yet.
Right.
I know the governor is
in public.
in public. Well, the governor is leaning that way.
Yes,
I understand some of the
yes.
political influences that she's wrestling with, and we pray for her. But again, she hasn't taken that position. But on our campus, we have the right to take that position,
Right.
Because we're a private institution. The states can't go any further than the governor does. So state institutions cannot invoke this requirement until the governor says so. But we don't have to wait for the governor on
Right.
that.
Right. Amen. Amen.
So again, those are some of the privileges of being a private institution.
Okay.
The other piece here that's really important, I think, Donna, is the testing piece. Shall I say something about that, Karen? So those who are paying attention to the Alabama news, those of us who live here in Alabama, the governor initially announced required reentry testing for all students who are at universities, but it was for publics, 2 and 4 years. A number of us appealed to the governor through various organizations, including the Alabama Council of Independent Colleges and Universities, which I belong to, Oakwood belongs to, the UNCF, HBCU schools. And the governor generously said, yes, we see the logic, we see the argument, and the governor said, yes, we want to include all of the university students now in the actual testing. So that will be paid for by the CARES Act,
Right.
along with the individual insurance, because all of our students are insured. So the testing piece now is secure. All we're doing now is managing the logistics of how and when and where that takes place. And those are the final kind of operational decisions.
So my question, I guess, is when we talk about the space, the instructional space, and, you got to know about how many students are coming. Do we know that? Because then you have to be concerned about how, I guess, does that extend to outside classroom or instructional spaces as well? Will we see classrooms outside now?
Yes.
Because of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Everywhere possible.
Okay.
We'll be utilizing those instructional spaces.
So as you drive by the campus, you'll see, like, for instance, at the bistro and cafe, we've got a beautiful outside pavilion there. Now that becomes instructional space.
Okay. So
We've got the
those-
Peters Media Center, which is an expansive space.
Okay.
Now that becomes space.
Okay.
Even the cafeteria
Right.
becomes
Okay.
instructional space because you need to be able
You
to
need
spread people out.
space to spread out.
So
yeah.
every space now becomes eligible to serve as instructional space. And a lot of this comes out of our Futures Committee, led by John Anderson and Prudence Pollard, as they're looking at the campus and recommending to us that we just expand the definition of what instructional space actually looks like.
Okay. So I think we got that clear. So I think what other people are wondering now, where you were going, testing, and when you come on the campus, what is the student going to expect that they have to do? Are we going to be taking temperatures? Or, what's happening there? Who's going to respond to that?
I think between Eboni and Dr. Henry
Okay.
can answer
Yeah,
this.
because our guests are here too, Eboni and
Eboni, yes,
and
Eboni
Earl.
is on. Eboni and
they've
Dr.
done a
Earl.
tremendous job. They really
So
have.
can you all talk a little bit about, Eboni is on the phone, and Dr. Henry's in our other studio. Can you talk about what students can expect once they step on the campus?
Good morning to the listening public, and thank you, Dr. Pollard, and thank you, WJOU, for having me.
Good morning.
Thank
This is
you,
Eboni
Dr.
Murraine.
Benn-Marshall. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Oakwood University has put
Good
public
morning.
health
So when
protocols
students come on
in
campus,
place
come fall,
to mitigate the
the students will
coronavirus
before-
and reduce its spread. These protocols are part of a comprehensive strategy. These public health protocols are strictly based on the recommendations and guidelines from the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, and the Alabama Department of Health. The components of this comprehensive strategy are, one, and there are 5 components: symptom screening, testing and contact tracing, strategies for ruling out or identifying individuals with COVID-19, and Ms. Eboni Murraine will speak to these factors in a few moments. She's Director of the Health Services. 2, promoting behaviors that reduce the spread. Hand hygiene, respiratory etiquette, social distancing of 6 feet or more, wear a mask at all times when in the company of another person or persons. Faculty, staff, and students are required to wear masks at all times, as Dr. Pollard and Dr. Benn-Marshall has stated earlier. 3, maintaining healthy environments around the campus. Every room of every building will have sanitization stations. We'll have hand sanitizers and disinfectant solutions. There will be daily disinfectant of desks, tables, chairs, computers, horizontal surface disinfections. Disinfection between classes. Plexiglass barriers in areas like offices, bistro, cash registers, between beds that are closer than 6 feet apart in the rooms of our residence halls. 4, maintaining health operations, signage. There will be signage all over the campus, on the outside of the buildings and in buildings, in high traffic areas, on doors, floors, and walls throughout the campus, reminding people of social distancing, washing hands, sanitizing hands, wearing a mask when in the company of one or more people. Teachers will emphasize daily the importance of personal responsibility. In our instructional spaces, the seats will be 6 feet apart, and if a student reports feeling feverish or unwell, each department will have 2 infrared thermometers so that students can be checked by the teachers to see if he or she has a fever. 5, preparing for if or when someone gets sick, like quarantining/isolation. Miss Eboni, who is Director of Health Services, will speak to symptom screening, testing, and contact tracing. Eboni?
Ebony?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Did you hear Dr. Henry just directed you to respond to the testing and the care of, I guess, students who may come down with COVID-19?
Okay, yes, I did hear the end part of what he was saying.
Okay.
So as Dr. Pollard had said before, Alabama has allocated a portion of the CARES Act funds for testing for all university students, including public and private. Currently, the students will have the option to test at local hospitals, urgent cares, and local health departments, and we will be able to provide that transportation if they do not have that. For contact tracing, myself and my staff, we were able to complete courses by Johns Hopkins University to be able to contact trace the students and faculty and staff on campus. If there is an outbreak, how will the university respond? We have isolation housing at the annex and additional housing spaces if we need it. The students will be in the care of both residential hall deans and health services, and they'll have to check in at least twice a day. And if we don't hear from them at the designated times, we'll have to go and do a welfare check.
Mm-hmm. Now, how will you control the outbreak if a student contracts COVID-19 in one of the dorms and then they're moved? What do you do with the remaining students in that building that may have been exposed?
So the benefit of the app is students are going to report their symptoms every 24 hours, so we can catch it in real time. If they have any changes in their symptoms, they can report that to the app and it will alert us. So our goal is to immediately isolate that student and take them away from the population, and then the contact tracing will help us identify those students who need immediate isolation as well in order to keep them from the general population.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a really good plan in place.
Well, we've got we've put a lot of work into the plan because, you know, if you start with a plan, then it's easier to respond. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a plan, you can only react.
Right.
Right?
I mean, we don't want to be reactive.
We don't want to be reactive. But for all of our friends who are tuning in and listening by Facebook, thank you for sending your questions and your observations. We'll also have a town hall tomorrow night that you're welcome to attend. And so we'll say a little bit about what that looks like, and you can get information on the website about the town hall for parents and students. We're doing one Tuesday night and we're doing one Wednesday night because we want to be transparent about what we're doing. We've got a question here that I'm going to put out for Dr. Benn-Marshall. So if borders are still closed, this comes from Facebook land, okay, cyberspace, some of our attendees and participants. If borders are still closed, how can foreign students, and I think they mean international students, how can international students who are returning get back to school because not every class is easy to do in distance learning? That's a good question. Mm-hmm. Good question.
It is a good question, and as you mentioned earlier, Dr. Pollard, we're really working on the logistics of that. We're aware that we have about 120 students who are international students, so we're working per country with each of our students and their particular needs, and so we're working to address that because I think that's a critical issue. We want to make sure that all of our students are able to complete in a timely manner, and so we're working with our international lead, which is Jorge Bartholomew, to reach out to those parents. We met with a group of parents from Bermuda last week. We'll be meeting with them again this week, and we'll be meeting with a group from Canada this week. So our goal is to reach out to these individual groups so that we can make sure that we're clear on what their needs are and make sure we address those.
But we are
appropriately.
offering hybrid learning. So is it possible that international students would be able to stay in their country and still go to
Yes,
school
absolutely.
if
We're
they
exploring.
can't make it
Yeah,
back?
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
I think the what do you call the person who's calling in? The person calling in, the viewer.
Yes.
But I think the viewer's question was was not so much could we do virtual, but
Right.
I think she's thinking about classes that are difficult to do in an online environment,
Right.
Like swimming.
Right.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so how do you
Right.
do that?
Right.
And I think those are some of the logistics that
Yeah,
Okay.
that we're trying to work and make sure that we provide for whatever their needs are. Yeah.
And then there's another question. So shall we take it?
Yes,
you know,
go ahead.
I
Yes, take the
really,
question.
I
Go
really have learned that we really are dependent upon our colleagues who are listening and participating. So another question: what plans do we have? Does Oakwood have for students who are high risk? This is an Eboni
That's a
question,
good
I
question.
think. Who are high risk or live with someone who is high risk? That's a really good question. Yeah,
Ebony.
comes from Brandy Wingate Watts. So thank you, Brandy.
Ebony, you hear that question?
Yes, I did hear that question. So the university is able to provide individual housing for students who may be at high risk in order to increase the protection for them. We also encourage the student to maintain social distancing, wear face masks, and to do their best at having some self-responsibility in order to mitigate that risk to themselves and to those around them.
And we're also addressing those on a case-by-case basis. So if we have a student who is high risk, then they should notify us so that we can make sure that we provide for those specific needs for that particular student.
So they're not going to just come on campus. They will have some specific instructions or care that they're going to receive if they're high risk.
Right. We just need to be notified who those students are and what their needs are.
Okay. All right, Dr. Pollard. I love the plan. I think it's really helping parents feel more comfortable with sending their kids, and I shouldn't say kids because these are grown folks, right?
Adults.
These are adults, and so I guess I have to commend the university again just for being on top of it,
Well,
and being
thank
able
you.
to open the university because I know that is a lot of folks concerned right now.
Of course,
And
absolutely.
a lot of people still won't come because of that,
Well,
right?
well, we never want to take away choice. We understand the role of choice in making these very important decisions. But would you like an interesting statistic?
Sure.
That we just received last week?
Yes.
You'll hear more about it as we go through. One of the interesting statistics, and we'll have a presentation on it in our town hall tomorrow, so everybody should pay attention to it, sponsored by the Office of Research. One of the things that we learned as we surveyed our students, as we took a sample of our students, a representative sample, and we asked them, do you wish to come back to school or do you wish to study virtually?
Okay.
80% of the students said, I want to come back.
Come
to school.
back. They want that experience,
They
right?
want that experience. Now, what we have to say, I guess the next question is, Dr. Karen, what will be different, though, when we come back? So, yes, we will come back,
And it will be
but
different.
could you say a little bit about, Dr. Benn-Marshall, about what will be different in terms of some of the classroom arrangements and those kinds of things?
Yeah.
There will be some difference. Cafeteria, all of these things. These will be some areas of difference, and there'll be some personal responsibility
Right.
and some adjustments that we all have to make.
Okay.
One of the things I'm going to ask Dr. Henry and Ms. Murraine to talk about is that entry into campus, that reentry process. But before we talk about that, one of the things, and I guess she can also talk about those PPEs that we will have personal care packages for each of the students
So
who enter.
PPE,
Yes.
PPE. What does that mean? Dr.
Personal
Benn-Marshall?
protection equipment.
Okay,
Yes.
PPE.
For all of our students,
Yeah.
they will receive a special packet with a mask and gloves and things like that, and she can talk about that. But yeah, and so maybe Eboni can start with the reentry, and then I could probably piggyback and finish up that piece.
Okay, Eboni.
Okay. Thank you. So students, they're going to undergo a COVID-19 pre-orientation before they arrive to campus to kind of give them some information about COVID-19, the best practices to mitigate their risk. We'll also offer an app that they can download that will be a complete symptom checker. They'll do it before they arrive to campus and then every 24 hours while they're on campus in order for us to track in real time student symptoms. And anyone that comes on campus with them during their return to school will have to complete a health screen questionnaire just to make sure that those who are with them are safe as well. Once they approach the gate, they'll be able to scan their barcode so we can have a track in real time where the student is, where they were in order us to perform contact tracing. All persons will have a temperature check when they return. As Dr. Benn-Marshall said, they'll receive a packet that will give them masks. And we also encourage students to bring their own, but they'll also have masks, hand sanitizers in order to move about campus safely. We'll do COVID-19 testing when they return in order to get a baseline of what their status is. And then there'll be instructions to move into the dorm on an appointment-only basis with limited visitors in order to lower the risk when returning to campus.
Okay.
A quick answer to President Pollard's question. Every public event will be operating at 50% capacity.
Okay.
Our classrooms, the gymnasium, with 50%. But so that's a change that the students.
And I guess what can you say about the actual experience? People, when they come to Oakwood, they're looking for that experience of worship, of sports and things like that. How are those things going to change?
Okay, so those things will change. Yes, they will change because the new reality is the new reality. So but how will the changes look? So let's take a few of the examples that you've cited. So one of the decisions we've made is that we're only going to do intramurals. We're not going to do extramurals, meaning that traveling around the country and doing that kind of thing. Because again, we're exposing ourselves to more and greater risk. A second big adjustment will be we're going to be very vigorous in the way we scrutinize campus leaves. Right? To the extent that we can, we really want to keep the campus self-contained. To the extent that we can. Now, it's not a penal colony, it's not a prison, right?
Right.
But again, though, we want to
limit that exposure to.
Yeah, especially for freshmen and first-year students.
Right.
I've had parents call me and say, please don't let my kid
go out,
especially a freshman, be running all over Huntsville and all that kind of thing.
Right.
And there won't be much to do anyway. I mean, really. I mean, the focus is going to be on campus here. So the way we structure student activities, the way we do all of those internal things will now reflect the new reality that we're laboring under for the foreseeable future.
Right. So what about, that just popped in my head, what about deliveries? Because we know students go in their dorms and they're asking people to come and deliver food. And now, because they can't go off campus, How is that going to be addressed? Are we not going to allow that?
Say that again. You mean like on-campus deliveries?
If they're in their dorm room and they want to have a pizza delivered, and if they want to have groceries delivered.
Now, so I'm working with a committee of 40 people.
Okay.
So I get questions all the time.
Okay.
And when there's a question that I haven't thought about, I always say, I didn't think about it. So this is streaming. No, that's okay. That's okay. No, that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
So my thoughts would be you leave it at the security booth.
Okay.
And circle and go back out the campus.
Okay.
Yeah.
They'd have to come and get it.
And then the student can come to the security booth and pick it up. Now, or you can meet them there at the booth.
Right.
If you want it still hot, right? So that's right. Who wants cold pizza, right?
Right.
So, but again, though, these are things, as we go through the process, there will always be questions that you never anticipated. You can think of the macro questions when you're doing this kind of planning, which is what I'm grateful to Karen and the committee for doing, the macro questions. But there will always be those little micro questions, which are a part of the process. And that's okay. That's okay. So I don't mind you asking me things that we never thought about. It's fine because that's the reality of our situation. Now, here's another question from a WJOU caller.
We've got 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. So how is it determined that a person is at high risk? That sounds like an Eboni question.
Eboni.
Or Eboni or Earl. How is it determined that a person is a high risk? That's one of the callers wants to know that.
Is that Dr. Henry, or either one of you can
Or
start?
Dr. Murraine?
I can answer that question.
Okay.
Okay.
So we encourage, like Dr. Karen Benn-Marshall said, we encourage students to self-report. So high risk are those with comorbidities, maybe hypertension, asthma, other respiratory related diseases, those diabetes, some of the well-known factors that make a student at high risk for complication with COVID-19. So we definitely want those students to report to us. And the good thing about health services, we get a rundown of all the students, what their risk factors are, their past medical history, so we can kind of see in real time what that looks like, where those students are, and any concerns we may have regarding their health. We'll definitely want to respond and keep up with them.
Okay.
Yes, and we have to remember the virus is more virulent with people who have pre-existing conditions
right.
and comorbidities.
So
Well,
we have to be careful.
And there are questions that are just coming in constantly.
Yes.
So what I want to do, because we're getting ready to end, and these are really good questions, a question about AY. So
Right.
tune in tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, right? You can get the information from our website. We have a 7 o'clock town hall where you'll be able to ask all your questions, and we can have the responsible parties on. We're going to do it Tuesday night, and we're going to do it Wednesday night, because we do want to be in dialogue and conversation with our constituents. So that'll be, I think that's the best way to answer the questions that are tumbling in now. We need to make sure that tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, we'll have a Zoom town hall. Everybody is welcome to attend, and we'll take the questions. We'll have all the personnel on available, and they will answer the questions, and we'll respond. Okay? So that's what we did. We'll continue with our response.
And they can get a copy of the plan that we've been going through this morning.
It's on
as
the
well.
website.
It's on our website.
It's on the university website.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pollard, Dr. Benn, Dr. Henry, Dr. Murraine. We thank you for being with us for Inside Oakwood and talking about the reopening, and we look forward to seeing you again on Thursday.
Thank you very much.
WJOU Huntsville, 90.1.